Gina here. I hope your day is going fantastic. Thanks for joining me. Today I get to share with you a project for LDRS Creative using a couple new items new to the LDRS Creative shop. The stamp set is called Puddle Jumper. It's a larger stamp set. It's 6 by 8. And then also the pattern paper here is called Puddle Jumper 2. And it also comes available in 12 by 12 sheets in case you like the patterns. But for today's project, it's been raining like cats and dogs over here, so I thought it'd be fun to create a puddle jumping card. We're going to jump in and get started. I'm going to use the image of the little person. It could be a boy or a girl. That's why I'm calling it a person. I'm going to make her a little girl, but the umbrella's covering her face, and so I thought it'd be really fun to do some paper piecing with this image. So I'm bringing in my Misti stamping tool and a piece of neenah 80-pound cardstock. I'm going to center my image in the center of my panel because this is going to be the panel that we're going to use directly on our card base. I'm just going to ink up my image with my mini Raven ink cube and stamp it a few times so my image is nice and clear. And once we have this done, I was going to put away my ink cube and my Misti, and I actually brought it back because we're going to stamp on some pattern paper. Since we're doing paper piecing, I wasn't sure what colors I was going to use, so I'm going to do I'm going to stamp the same image on 3 of these patterns. The brightest yellow I'm going to save for my background. So I'm just placing my panel inside my Misti and stamping my image over it. I use my Misti for this because the paper has a little bit of shine to it, a little bit of a smooth surface, and so my Misti I knew I wouldn't mess up basically. Okay, look, we're going to do some fussy cutting. And like I said, I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted the little girl's raincoat to be yellow. I just think raincoats should be yellow. I don't think we even wear raincoats anymore. At least my little girls did when they were little. But I thought they were adorable. Originally I was going to use yellow and purple for my umbrella, but I ended up switching that around later on. I ended up creating a blue and purple umbrella and then fussy cutting out my little girl's raincoat and the rain boots with the yellow pattern paper. Now once I got all my fussy cutting done, I also fussy cut out a mask with some masking paper. We're going to do a little bit of coloring behind our image, and so I just used some masking magic to cut out my image there. Now I wanted my panel a little bit smaller than my card base, so I'm trimming off about 1/4 inch off of every side of this panel. This way I have room to mat the brighter yellow cardstock or the pattern paper behind it. Okay, I'm going to remove the release paper off of my mask, place that over my image, just making sure everything is lined up. And then we're going to use a stencil. The stencil that we're using was the same one I used for my last LDRS Creative project. It's called Rainy Day. For my last project I used the border on it, but on the inside of the stencil there's raindrops with the rain clouds, and I thought that'd be perfect background for my card today. So once I have my mask covered up, my image, I'm going to color in my little raindrops and clouds using a mini ink cube called Swimming Hole, I believe. I'll link it down below, guys. But I'm just taping down my mask to my craft mat here, and then using my blending tool I'm going to add a little bit of shading to my raindrops that are in the background and also to my clouds. For my clouds I wanted them to be blotchy. I wanted some white areas, some darker blue areas, and lighter areas. And so I'm just lightly tapping my blending tool on there. Now once we have that done, I wanted to add some shimmer and sparkle, so I'm using some Glimmer paste by Nuvo. This is called Moonstone. It has a beautiful iridescent hue to it, a golden iridescent hue, and I think it goes really well with that blue ink. But I'm just spreading it over my clouds, filling in the stencil along with all the little raindrops. Just making sure it's smooth. And I love the way this turned out. I thought it turned out super sparkly and shiny. Okay, we're going to just carefully lift up our mask, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to clean off my stencil. I think I just said mask, but I'm going to clean off my stencil very well, and then wait for my panel to dry before we finish it off, which it is now. So we're just going to remove our mask, and I'm going to keep it because there's only a few little raindrops on there, and so I thought I'm just going to stick it to the back of my stamp set. Okay, before we do our paper piecing, I did think we should color in our little girl's arms and legs, hands and legs. So I'm using a couple shades of skin tones, using E00 and E11. And that's all the coloring we get to do. We get a paper piece the rest. I am going to bring in a blue marker and color in the puddle, just to add a little bit more of a watery look. It was the lightest shade of blue that I had. I believe it's a B01. And then I'm just going to blend out that color with my colorless blender. This also pulls down some of that blue from the clouds. I think it looks so pretty. Okay, I'm going to use my glue, go over the entire umbrella, the raincoat, my little rain boots, and then we get to do some paper piecing. I haven't did this a while and I really enjoy it. I think it's very fun. I did use a black marker and went around the edge of each one of my pieces. This will hide any of my imperfections that I made during my fussy cutting. And then you can see the colors that I used. I used the purple and the blue pattern paper. And the patterns, there's some bold patterns in the Puddle Jumper 6x6 paper pad, but there's also some itty bitty print. And this is like a tiny plaid, and so I thought it would go perfect for paper piecing. We're going to add the little scallop to our little umbrella. We're going to add our little yellow raincoat. Now, the little girl's dress was on the inside of the raincoat, so I cut the entire raincoat out, and then this little piece I cut out with the purple pattern paper, and this way I can lay it right on top. It was just easier than having two pieces for the raincoat. I'm going to add a little glue to the top of her raincoat here, and then add this dress piece. And I think she looks so cute. And she is all filled in, super easy. And I love that sparkle on those clouds. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of my I believe it's C4 or C6 to the bottom of her rain boots. And then I thought we would add some color to the little buttons on her raincoat. So I found some Copic markers that were the closest I could find to the pattern papers. I'm using purple to color in the little flowers on her rain boots. And it colors beautifully because, like I said, that pattern paper has a smooth finish on it. Okay, now we're going to take some fun foam. We're gonna add a little dimension to this panel. I'm just going to place a piece behind my image here, and then here's where I'm going to trim down my brighter yellow pattern paper, and I'm just using my panel as a guide to trim down. Just so a little bit's peeking out. I'm going to go ahead and adhere my yellow pattern paper directly to an A2 size card base. It is I thought the blue would look really pretty too with the pattern paper, but I wanted it to be a little bit more cheery, so I chose the yellow. Once my panel is adhered, we'll remove the release paper off of our fun foam and place our panel right in the center. Okay, after we have this done, we're going to stamp our sentiment. There's a lot of cute little sentiments in the stamp set, but I chose Make a Splash. I'm inking up my sentiment with my Versamark ink and stamping it on some black cardstock, and then we're going to go over it with white embossing powder. And using my heat gun, I'm going to go ahead and melt that, and then I did block it off using my paper trimmer. We just added a few foam squares behind it, and then this is going to go towards the left of our card base, kind of overlapping on top of our umbrella. Now I thought we need to ground the little puddle so it's just not floating there. So I started off, I wanted to use my C1, but I ended up picking up the C4, which is a little bit darker. So I'm going to add a little more C4 to the other side of my puddle and kind of blend it out with my C1, and then also a little bit more of my BO1. I'm going to use my blender pen and just fade it all down, and I think that turned out really neat. It almost looks like a continuation of the puddle slash shadow. Okay, next we're going to give our puddle a little water effect using some Nuvo jewel drops, I believe, crystal drops. This is Morning Dew. It's like a glossy accent. And then I was going to go over my umbrella, but I wanted since my raindrops in the background had that iridescent hue to it, I thought we'd bring in some glitter, and it was pretty close. The Moon Dust Glimmer paste has a gold tone to it, and then the glitter drops that I was using has a blue tone to it. But I just added a few drops on top of the umbrella just so it all kind of spreads out. And it worked out well because of the blue tones from my umbrella. I did use my white gel pen to dot the little dots on the very scalloped edge of the umbrella. And then I'm doing a little bit of shading on my little girl's dress. And then that finished my card today, guys. I think it's super cute. If you like anything that you see, I'll leave the links down below in the description area for you. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. I wish you a fantastic day, and we will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.